It's June the 12th, 2016. I'm Dana Durnford, your host, nuclear proctologist.org. And you can find me in videos and Fukushima presentations through the entire internet. And we thank everybody for your due diligence and the fact that we have government admitting that there's cancer that's mobile and transferable is extraordinary. We'll cover that in a few seconds. And we got great surprises for everybody tonight right off the bat. We got some really got some good stuff, and we're not even going to waste any time on that. I'm just going to set up. I'm going to come over and say hi to everybody in a few moments. And I see the chat room is going good. That's good to see. Here we go. We're back to normal. Well. And we got, make sure everything is going good on your end. I better come over and have a quick look. Hi, everybody. We're going to come over to that side in a few moments here. I just wanted to start the show off with some, well, let's just start the show off. First off, tonight we're going to talk about a couple of extraordinarily important subjects. Radiation, Pacific Ocean. We're going to talk about the academics that are saying that the ocean will be returning to normal. And we'll talk about the actual mussels along the coastline of British Columbia. Now, I'm not just somebody who's blogging on the internet. I actually done 260 days on the ocean on Fukushima's Expeditions for Life. And that you can find that documentation at nuclearproctologist.org. That's my website. But first off, we have some rather interesting news. There was a person. Now you see this guy here in the corner. That's his name. Allegedly is Louis L'Amour. That's our first look at him. He's one of our donors who donated the Zodiac. Was harassed so much, committed suicide because of this person. But if you take that picture and you flip it and join two pictures together, you ended up with that. And if you take that and you straighten it up, this is the person who killed Jeff Palco, caused Jeff Palco to commit suicide while I was on the ocean. And if you don't, if you're from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, then I put together a little skit for everybody. And this is...
and I'll mention this again in case you're new here, that I live on the Pacific Ocean. I am surrounded by water. I live in the city of Victoria. There are whale tours that leave right from right downtown here. Beautiful place. I've said before, I'm a certified travel agent, so if you want to come have a beautiful West Coast experience, contact me, cd1 at connectingdots1.com. I'll hook up your itinerary. I don't know all the entire island by heart, but I've been here for roughly over almost 13 years now, and a lot of beautiful places here, little secrets that are not really promoted too much. Anyways, long story short, the Strait of Juan de Fuca that I'll be speaking about in this video is this area.
So that was Dots. Once again, recap. All I done was took his picture, flipped it, joined it together, and then straightened it up. And this person caused the death of another person, so he's guilty of manslaughter. And we know he harassed this person right up until he committed suicide from the emails. And he immediately came out the very next day and accused me of causing the death. And he's been doing that now since I came off the ocean. And I just wanted to cover that because it's so important. Now, he came up and done an expedition. And here's a short clip of that.
Come back here. If we find anything. Okay, I'm not going to stay down at this beach. There's not too much here. I mean, there is some vegetation on rocks, but other than that, the beach is bare and it's full of boulders. It's not even a nice place to sleep by the beach. So
Well, if you count the insects, he found 10 species, I think it was. So he proves the extinction event is real. And this is the person who caused the death of Jeff Palco. He harassed this person until he committed suicide. And I just know everybody wanted an update on that one. Hi, everybody. Greetings, everybody. Let's come over and say hi to everybody before we get into the show. It always takes a few minutes to warm up. The jet stream up in the Geiger counter up in the corner. I'll fix that. The Geiger counter up in the corner is live. I'll give it a little tap for you. Hi, everybody. Adam, Fukushima, Exposed, Shanikin, hi, Lane, Mindy. I know Miss Milky, Jan Brooks, the clown is there. Miss Milky, the clown, won. And she has her other site, Miss Milky, the clown. And she has a strike on her account. She's waiting. And so she has an incredible amount of documentation up at her site. If you're looking for the whole litany to 5 years in the media reports, it's all up there at her 2 sites. And that's why she has Miss Milky the one, because she has so many strikes on her other account. I'm Thirst! And I forgot to call you today, I'm sorry. I just remembered that time. Yeah, it's been one of those days. And everybody, James, hi everybody. And Fix It! Hi folks. And so, I hope that came out okay. You have his original playlist showing Dangerous Radiation. This is Jan Brooks. You go over to Miss Milky the Clown 1. Go through her playlist. You're going to find playlist Dangerous Radiation in initial months, right? And you'll find this guy was a 100% liar. I'm just going to run up. Hi, Elmwood. Make sure I got everybody. Pam. And just in case I forgot. Okay, so the story is this one here. Are we too scared of radiation? And this story, she doesn't tell you anybody. We'll get into all that coming up heavily. Now, my site has how many subscribers? 19,736? Yeah, 36. Okay. Elaine took this screen capture of one of my videos. 2,700 thumbs up, 172 thumbs up, 25 views just after I posted it. And then you can see how many subscribers I had there, 19,677. And because I've been here for so long, I've been a partner on YouTube before there was partners. When there was just a select handful of partners. Most of these were celebrities only. And they invited me in. All I had to do was click and yes, and I was a partner. And back in the day, that meant you can post long videos and you were privileged. And I still have privileges that the partners that are joining today do not have. And I have a lot of latitude because I'm an old partner, back before Google bought it. So that was one of the last things they done before they signed it over to Google was made me a partner. Literally that last couple of days before they signed it over, they had made me a partner. I clicked on it. And people yelled at me for doing that, becoming a partner. But it just gave you certain privileges. And so the story is based up on, all of these stories are coming from this guy from Australia, but he's not actually from Australia, even though everybody says he's an Australian scientist. He's from Belgium, right? If I remember correctly. He just moved here a year ago. And he has 170 studies, 172 publications. We're going to cover some of them tonight, just a synopsis. And just a quick note, Frank Munger has retired and Richard Locker had retired. And so this is a good day for the planet. And it's impossible to replace these people because they're mass murderers, because they were soulless, spineless maggots and parasites and predators upon our society. And it's a good day to see these people gone. And when they get to hell, they'll be replacing the devil. The devil will retire because something more evil has finally showed up. That'll be these two people right there. Unless this lady here, Helen Briggs, finds them first, gets down there first. Now what she done, look at this. This is the mixed oxide fuel. And so we're going to go heavily down that road coming up here right now. And we'll just find another format that works. This format will get better, I think, or not. Okay, I'll jump over to that one. How about this one? Okay, are we too scared of radiation? Now, she's talking about Fukushima, and she's talking about that scientist I was just showing you from Australia. And what that is all based upon is all this media has ran out with this narrative. I should have had that at the top of the page, but I didn't. I'm just waiting for the page to catch up with me here. Hang on. And so, and it gets confusing, don't it? Wait. That's okay. Let's keep going. Because my equipment is so complicated. Helen Briggs. And Helen has all kinds of history beyond. During her time at BC, she worked for this one, that one, those ones. But her favorite academic site is pubmed.government, right? And so we're going to go hit studies from that. Dose-dependent cardiac energy linked to radiation-induced heart disease in nuclear workers. Really? How interesting is that? And we're not going to try to walk through everything here with the radiated hearts. So this was what they found out from that. Now, the plant behind me is 2 million times worse than any current reactor on the planet. Yeah? 2 million times worse than any current reactor on this planet. And yet Helen has come out and just, she never gave any, I had to go look up the names of people because she didn't supply. This is BBC, by the way. In more than 5 years since the tsunami and earthquake off the coast of Japan, normal, workers battle the Fukushima plant, going into complete meltdown. And radiation levels rose by a factor of tens of millions. Okay, which is not really much when it comes to radiation. Like, it's deadly, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to nuclear accidents, it's much higher than that. Tens of trillions, much more than that. Okay, and so, I forgot to have that other link up there waiting for us. And so, let me bring that up. Dana, getting ahead of myself. Like the plot of a summer horror flick, all along the Canadian Pacific coast, mussels are dying. We're going to jump back in a second, just to get started on this one. Bodies are swollen by the cancerous tumors. We've never seen cancer in marine animals before. We've seen tumors in animals, marine animals, but we've never seen cancer in marine animals. Okay, and so bodies are swollen by cancerous tumors, unprecedented mutations. But all along, look at those two words, Canada's Pacific coastline. Now, we called up the Canadian Shellfish Harvester Association today to try to get a comment. We couldn't get a comment. But mussels are dying out the whole coastline. Now, we done the whole coastline. Documentation is up at the nuclearproctologist.org. And we show that the mussels are already gone throughout the whole coastline, and so are all the other species. And the mussels are located in the tidal zones. And so this story, let's harp on that for 1 second before I'm doing dual things here tonight, but anyway. So the mussels, this is the logistics of the story. This cancer has been found in the Atlantic and over in Spain. Atlantic. But it's like leukemia. And they call it leukemia, they call it cancer, they call it cancer cells, they call it cancerous tumors. And so they keep calling it cancer. The tumors cells didn't have the same DNA as their host. Instead, every mussel was being killed by the same line of cancer cells, which were jumping from one individual to the next like a virus. So that's game over. You don't eat mussels ever again. That's game over. The mussel industry has to shut its door now. And when you go out and search this headline, no one's talking about it. National Geographic talked about it. Washington Post talked about it. Canadian journalists, University of British Columbia have reported on it. CBC News reported on it, but that was the end of it. Contagious cancers are a scary idea to begin with, yeah? Well, think about if apples were cancerous, and then it jumped to oranges and potatoes and grass and berries. Would you go out and dig up your lawn? Yeah. Would your neighbors? Yeah. Well, what about your lawn is the Pacific coastline? What about your lawn is, a Canadian coastline is all houses. So, essentially what they're saying is, don't go to the beach and don't eat it. But what they're doing is a metaphor. because we already showed in the Expeditions for Lives. Let me touch up on that. The Fukushima Expedition for Life. See, that's what it looks like in Louise Narrows, but this is what it should look like everywhere you went. It should be just incredible, no matter where you go on the coastline. So we went up in this boat, crowdfunded the boat. We put the cabin on it and the extra motors on it and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, we done that in increments, donations. Everything was donations, including the boat and the cameras. Paulette, Audrey, right? Never forget that, who really threw down for the cameras and threw down for equipment for the cameras and everything else, lenses and you name it. Went to work and made sure we had that very basis, and then we got the boat. Then we raised the money for all the equipment, and and we originally had 3 people on the coastline, 4 counting me, but I wasn't on the ocean for the first couple of months. I sent 3 other people out there and took all the pictures. It wasn't me. And so we ended up we couldn't keep funding that. We were being attacked and demonized by the guy I was showing you earlier and all the other nuclear industries out there. They were just viscerating us. We didn't understand really 100% the significance of what we were doing until it was done. So it took 260 days, up to 5 months without coming home, by myself, mind you. But anyway, we done the whole coastline. Instead of the coastline looking beautiful and amazing and incredible, and these were all from the very top up there. You see Prince Rupert on your left-hand side. You see the islands, the Skidegate, Port Clement. You see Arrow in the middle of that islands to your bottom left. Well, right below that those arrows, that's where Louise Narrows is to anyway. So this is out in the middle of nowhere, a wonderful spot, and that the coastline was naked. There's no mussels there either, is there? No mussels here. That's what it looks like. But this is what it used to look like, right? When Dots went down to the beaches, this is what he should have saw. But these pictures are specifically for. It doesn't matter that it's up in the Charlottes where these pictures were taken pre-Fukushima. What it matters is that this is emblematic of the entire coast of British Columbia. That's what made British Columbia so special. That's what made it so unique and so incredible. And so it's scary sometimes. And so like up to 75 of those leather stars per square meter. And so it was just a smorgasbord no matter where you went, and all the varieties were everywhere. It was an incredible experience. It's something you can't forget, and it's something that I spent 14,000 hours underwater in Boat Ocean, something I'm very familiar with. And I've been here. I've seen this in real life, these exact stuff. This is what I'm familiar with. This is what I know. This is what I understand. This is what I done. That's why I lived the life I led, and that's why this impacted me the way it did, because this is what I'm used to, right? But now this is what it looks like in the same spot that I've already known what it looked like, and I showed you the pictures. That's what it looks like. Now it's a horror show. Now there's no mussels. Yeah, you'll find some insects, you'll find a couple of birds, but the species have been completely eradicated. It's not like that, is it? It's not like that, is it? It's not like that, right? It doesn't have this incredible diversity, that jolt you're going to get. You think about coming in there in a little boat, and you can just stop anywhere, and you got enough food, you can go ahead and eat. Just dig around, look at all the mussels everywhere, right? But look at it now. See, that's an iconic spot is what I'm trying to say to you. And so it's gone because we've done the whole coastline. That documentation is up at the nuclearproctologist.org. We have already said, are you waiting for somebody else to build another operation and go out and do the whole coastline again and show you these same pictures before people get it? Are they going to wait for somebody else because they don't like me? That's okay. Well, somebody else wants to go do it. I got all the equipment sitting here. We already done it. I'll be more than happy to help you out. If that's what it takes for this world to understand what I'm saying is true, what I got up at my website is the GPSs and the documentations. What we done was a sacrifice by many. And it wouldn't have been done without Elaine Campbell and without Janet and Fred Saxon Peck and without Jeff Palco and everybody else that donated. And that Jeff Palco memory should not be what Louis L'Amour, Connecting Dots, wants it to be. It should be his legacy that he done the moral and ethical thing. And the fact that he was murdered by this person, harassed and destroyed by this guy known as Connecting Dots, Louis L'Amour from Victoria, who soon is going to have to go up on the manslaughter charges for sure. That's going to happen. There's no way around this. I don't know any other way around this. This person is intent upon blaming me for something that he done, and that's a murder. And so we have to justify that. We can't just turn our back on Jeff Palco. Did we turn our back on Elaine Campbell? Did we turn our back on Janet and Fred Saxton Peck? Right? You know, these are enormous responsibilities that we have thrusted upon us, and that there is no shortcut around that. And I need the support to do the things that are going to be really difficult for me, and that are going to be far impacting and long-reaching and enormously expensive for me. But this is just one of the many chores that are necessary to right around. And I'm not going to go through the emails of how we harassed him, show you that here tonight, but we will do videos about that later. And that the legacy is we done the whole coastline, and that we showed an extinction event. That's our legacy. And that's what we have to fight for the recognition of. Decontamination of americium using fresh and frozen pigskin. And so if you've got a cut in your hand, it's really easy for the radiation to get in there. But what they found was about, I can't remember, 7% or 11% they couldn't get off the skin. They got 90% of the initial stuff off, but they couldn't get the rest off it. That's how radiation works. And in case of a wound intake of plutonium isotopes and americium in the human, through a cut, and then they tried to they used a aggregate to try to get the radiation out of them, if I remember correctly. So workers battled to prevent the Fukushima nuclear plant. No, they ran away. They sent in the Fukushima 50, and then another 50, and then another 50, and then another 50. And there's thousands of these Fukushima 50s. However, a new report by an Australian scientist who's actually from, I can't remember the name now, but he's not, he just moved to Australia. He's just somebody who showed up on the scene, and all of a sudden everybody's going to run with that headline as if that's real, as if the radiation is going to turn to dust. Just disappear. Time has stood still now, and the radiation is gone. That's the game they're trying to play on you. It's not just Helen Briggs from BBC. She's just parroting everybody else. We'll cover some of that coming up. Has revealed the radiation in the Pacific Ocean is rapidly returning to normal. Where did he come from? Now, he's hooked up to the University of Victoria people, and he's Woods Hole. They're hid away behind this guy. That's what they're doing. They're using him as their front man. To the editor, this was out of an academic study. This was rather interesting. The largest study to date of nuclear workers involved 40 or 100,000 workers in 15 countries. What was that? A 40% increase in the risk of cancers to the age of 15 years. So Oxford surveyed childhood cancers as early as 1950. Prenatal exposure to radiographic in the range of 10 to 20 millisieverts was associated with a 40% risk of cancer up to the age of 15. But child leukemias are 90% more around nuclear power plants. Modeling surface radioactive spill dispersion in the Alboran Sea. Intense shipping activity occurred in the area. So contaminations of sediment deposited. So these are 2008. That one was 2006. So these radiations lasted a long time, but yet Fukushima is going to disappear from the ocean is what I'm trying to show you here today. In not the most elegant way, I'm sure, but that's the problem with these conversations or these lawyers. You got to come out and take your time, methodically go through efforts to curb further leaks. It's not leaks; it's hemorrhaging directly into the ocean. They keep showing you these connotations of the tsunami. Well, the tsunami took out 400 kilometers of the coastline and 15 nuclear power plants, and all the nuke waste storage sites that were on the ground were swept away. So every time they show you that picture, that's the connotation you really should have, because that's what they're trying to hide away with that picture. Plus, they're trying to say more people died from the tsunami than did from radiation. And if you look at If you look at pre-Fukushima, 8% of the children in 2001, and then 36%. So 13,600 out of 40,000 by June 15, 2012, now had manifestations from the radiation. Because not only iodine goes in your thyroid, all emitters of the same type, like cesium. Like cesium really penetrates your thyroid heavily. And so huge challenges in the future as decontamination efforts continue. So they're going to put an ice wall there because the ocean's going to return to normal. They just spent $500 million on an ice wall when it should, because the government will pay for that, but they won't pay for a real wall. That comes out of the shareholders' pockets. And so this crazy lady, this disgusting parasite, Helen Briggs from BBC, come out with this story, and she never wrote the story. She doesn't have that kind of knowledge or experience or the ability to hardwire a story like she done here. So this was professionally done, and she tossed her name on it. And so she deserves to be held accountable down the road. That's not journalism. That's yellow journalism, the worst type, where you sign your name to somebody else's article. You build up an audience, and then you feed them something that you didn't even write. Radioactive characterizations and associated dose from long-lived radionuclides. Long-lived from Bikini and the Inawata Atoll. So back in 46, they went boomy, 58. That stuff is still there today, see? When was that study done? 1999. See, if Fukushima was going to clean up that stuff, it wouldn't be there now, would it? But that's never going to go away. The plutonium is going to last 290,000 years or so. 10 half-lives to 29,000 years. Uranium is what the reactors actually run on. It's not going away for 4 to 5 billion years per half-life. And then all their daughters, the endless amount of long-lived radionuclides, everything that comes out of a chain reaction got nothing to do with anything in the solar system. Nothing to do with bananas. So the Bikini and all these studies showing how the radiation is not going away. No, because they got fissile material over. So the seafloor in the harbor near Fukushima are highly contaminated because the rods blew up and blew the rods out into the harbor. They actually put cement out in the harbor on the ocean floor to try to contain it. It's hemorrhaging. Every time it rains in Japan, the whole country is washing radionuclides out into the ocean. It's constantly hemorrhaging out of the reactors, Chernobyl was 1/3 size, Chernobyl was 30% meltdown, Chernobyl stopped after 10 days. The Northern Marshall Island radiological surveys. Now this is all from Helen Briggs' favorite website. Her favorite source. So is her source now good enough to say, hey, Dana, maybe, there's something going on there? That's the question, isn't it? I'm using her sources. What more can I do? Can I possibly do any more than that, right? And I'm not paying attention to the chat because I got to watch that sometimes to make sure. Now I'm going to have a cigarette. It doesn't have 7,000 chemicals. And scientists have been trying for 50 years to link nicotine to cancer, and they can't. They still can't. But there's 7,000 chemicals there. So they don't take a cigarette with 7,000 chemicals, take the 7,000 chemicals out, get the nicotine, and then do their test. No, they get nicotine and they do their test. If they take a cigarette, it's a whole different experiment. They got to get rid of 7,000 chemicals. They can't do that. Just like you can't get rid of the radiation. I don't smoke a lot, but I do smoke some. In the Northern Marshall Islands, and when I'm stressed out like I am right now, trying to keep on track with everything I'm doing, sometimes I'll have a few puffs of a cigarette, and it's not bad because I don't have 7,000 chemicals. But if you look at this, I'm not sure if that'll help. No, that's probably not going to help. Did I do something different? Oh, okay, I got to set up a different way there. So to see the numbers alongside of me, to right here, look at all these numbers defining. And what year was that study? 1997, and so 1946 to 58, 1997, look at the bottom across from me. Look, they still found all that stuff, yeah? You know what I'm saying, right? They're not telling you how much they really found. But in terms of human evolution, it's not long ago since we were hunter-gatherers. Says Helen Briggs, facing danger all around us from poisonous plants to predators. Yeah, but that's not the same as something invisible going, and then 20 years later having to liquidate your assets because you got cancer, or liquidate your assets because your children got cancer, or liquidate your assets because your loved ones are in such misery, you're burning everything you got. because you believe them, because you put your faith in them, because you trust these people like Helen Briggs. There's 30 million one-ton bags, but the ocean is okay. They're still cleaning it up down there, Helen. That's 5 lanes of traffic if you put it bumper to bumper one-ton trucks right around the entire planet. So she says stuff like we're hardwired to react to danger because we can see, smell, and taste radioactivity. No, we can't. We can't see, smell, or taste radioactivity. It's an invisible threat. Perhaps has a particular resonance. Because we're hardwired to react to danger, we can see, smell, and taste radioactivity. Taste radioactivity. So this is all one sentence. So this is an incredible law. You can't see radiation. You can't smell radiation. You can't taste radiation. Then she puts, which is an invisible threat. Human beings are particularly useless about being able to assess risks, but surprisingly, there's a bunch of academics who study this stuff. But surprisingly. And so here's her idea of measurements. Look at that one. Whoever gave her that should be strangled. Not physically, but not literally, but should be strangled out of the community. Because otherwise they'll be here knocking on my door, Dana, you're under arrest for threatening a scientist. Yeah, but they're murderers. They're lying. Your friends and families and loved ones are taking their words now and being murdered by them. Don't care, Dana. You called them out, so we got to arrest you. That's what you've done with me. I still got to go to trial. I don't have a nickel in my name. How am I going to go do anything? Right? Because I've been attacked so much. They come out to try to discredit me so much and debunk me so much. But they won't go after my nerve. They just calls me names, makes fun of me because I'm crippled. Makes fun of me because I'm old. Makes fun of me because of the way I talk. Make fun of me. That's all they do. See, that bozo was up here trying to debunk me. He says, Dana says the tidal zones are empty. And then he shows pictures of the tidal zones empty. He says, Dana says the tidal zones are empty. And then he shows pictures of a bird. Says, see, there's birds. Then he says, well, guys, seen a pod of orca whales. But the orca whales are not hanging out in tidal zones. The herring weren't hanging out in those tidal zones at low tide. So, like, these people are not being honest or genuine or sincere. They're vicious and violent thugs who killed somebody who donated to me, and that scares away all the other donors. Then they come in and accuse me of it. When I'm on the ocean for 5 months, why it happened. And I was demonized and attacked the entire time. But I'm still back here banging away at Helen Briggs. Now, Helen Briggs, my cigarettes don't have 7,000 chemicals. You could just join in the show. Radiation doses and cancer risk in the Marshall Islands associated with exposure, 1946 to 58. And so these numbers, or a lot of these numbers are the same as what the dogs were getting. The dogs all died in 3 to 5 years. And a dog's life is 7 years to 1, is it, or something? But we got bigger doses. We got incredible doses. Adult internal thyroid doses to the uric community, this is right above my head there, 2 sentences above my finger, 3 sentences, 20 to 30 times greater than to the red bone marrow thyroid glands, internal doses. They usually just study external doses. They haven't studied internal doses. That's why this one's important for everybody. But they downplay it. About 170 excess cancers, 25,000. Projected to occur. But see, heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, adrenaline, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism all shows up before cancer. So they're not being genuine. They're not being honest. They're not being sincere. Right? They say 170 is expected to show up. They got children that are born like little, they got a special name for it, jelly children. They have to bury them. They're born like jelly. If you go look up the depleted uranium children in Iraq and Fallujah, you'll understand. You might not sleep tonight, but you'll understand. Are we too scared of radiation? This is Helen Briggs coming out now trying to manipulate radiation as if it's harmless. On top of, as it seems our perception of risk from radiation is somewhat fickle. Really? Since Fukushima, polling internationally has shown large declines. What's polling got to do with science? We don't need polling to understand science with the academic studies I'm showing you today, do you? How is that polling? Why don't you poll those people? Helen? You know, these people. Go poll them, Helen. Use those polls. But in the UK and US, there remains as many people in favor as opposed to nuclear power in such polls. What has the polls got to do with the studies? Well, because the people didn't read the studies, don't know the studies exist. And after watching this video, it's probably the first time you've ever been exposed to these studies. So Helen uses the general opinion to correlate so many likes it and so many don't. What's the big whoop? Right? What's the big whoop? Are we scared or too scared of radiation? Right? That's the connotations you're going to take away from that. The effects of environmental half-life of 137 at the Coral Islands. When did that happen? 46 to 58. And when is this study? 2003. But yet Fukushima, radiation going to return to normal. When it's still hemorrhaging into the ocean, why they're still building an ice wall to try to stop it. They keep saying it's leaking and bleeding, but these are not words that match up to the volumes. These are not words you use for volumes. The person who started that word bleeding should be bleeding. The United States conducted nuclear weapon testing. Everything's hunky-dory. Have a nice day. Shut your pie hole. Go away. So, it doesn't go away. Why fearful members of the public shun plant workers. So now all of a sudden, because radiation workers are being shunned, everybody should just hush up and shut up. Oh, the poor people who were contaminated are being victimized. We shouldn't talk about it. The people are worried because they're emitting radiation. They don't understand it because the industry lies and lies and lies, and the media backs up their lies, makes it even worse because that's the game. Government figures, see the third paragraph up. However, government figures suggest more than 1,000 evacuees have died from causes related to the disaster. They were in the evacuation zone where they ingested high levels of radiation. I've covered those headlines repeatedly. There were 7 people dropped dead on one street in Fukushima Prefecture. They should have evacuated. 7 people on one shopping street since Fukushima dropped dead. If you were living on a street where 7 people in the last couple of years dropped dead and suspected it was because of high radiation, because you lived there and you know better, and you were impoverished, you wouldn't want to live there, would you? I wouldn't want to eat mussels that are coming out of the Pacific Ocean, would you? That are full of cancer? Think about it. So we have an extinction event playing out. Everybody's coming out at the same time saying the ocean is going to return to normal, and you can't eat the mussels or the clams because this has jumped the clams too, and multiple oceans. Cancer this, leukemia that. Like leukemia is a bone cancer. It's mutating stem cells from your bones. That's what a leukemia is. So how the frig is a fish without bones getting leukemia? Well, like the pictures I showed you earlier on the Expedition for Life, there's very little left, if any. There's less than 100 species last year. There's less than that now. But out of the 5,600 highly visible species. Highly visible, like I showed you in the pictures earlier. And so the species that are left are maggoty with radiation. So a fish will magnify it 15,000 times, but he's still swimming around because he's got a short life, but he'll die of natural causes before cancer, because cancer takes a long time. But there will be other manifestations. Like bleeding from the eyes and the fins and everywhere else, like we've seen with the herring, like the missing anchovies and squid and sardines and krill, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the species that are just hanging on, and so shellfish are magnified at 100 to 120,000 times. But they can still survive even though because they have a certain lifespan. Some shellfish, like there's an Atlantic shellfish, can live over 400 years. The gooey duck can live 200 years here in British Columbia. There are shellfish that can live a long time. And we don't know because we don't see the studies on that, speaking of which. But we can't eat anything out of the ocean after reading headlines like that. And so this is not just National Geographic, University of British Columbia, where I'm too. Cancer. Contagious. Cancer. CBC. Same people come out and demonize me. Accuse me of fear-mongering, or now fear-mongering. Or not. They're telling the truth. But see, this was a way, because the British Columbia is just incredibly stunning place. It's just unbelievable. 26,000 islands. It has a tropical temperature. You wear your sneakers all year round. And these children from the government are the children you see out playing on the boats when they're older. Their parents got everything. They're ripping off the government. They're stealing computers, stealing fuel cards, and they're stealing this and stealing that with government. That's what they do. That's what all the government do is just ripping off stuff from the government all the time, stealing money from the money they're being allocated. And I can cover that endlessly, how they done it and things, the scams they done. But anyway, what it is, this whole story is about, because the mussels are literally gone. What's left here is probably full of something, but it's not going to be cancer. But it was a way to stop their children and their friends and their families and even their loved ones who don't know that they covered up Fukushima, who don't know they abrogated their responsibility to the Canadian people, who don't understand, right, that they buried that information. They kept silence and never even told their friends and families the news. But we know there was 220 million becquerels per square meter through British Columbia, Canada. 220 million becquerels per liter of rainwater. We got confirmations of 1 million per square meter in another study of iodine 131. We got 220 million of these. Like if you got iodine 129 at this ratio, you got all the other radioactive isotopes that comes from a chain reaction. The ones they're telling you about is tracers. Iodine is a tracer. The cesium is the tracers. So you extrapolate. That's how it was done. That's how they all do it. They know the rough ratio of the isotopes creation. For every iodine 131, 10 times more iodine 132 are created, 30 times more iodine 133 are created, 31 times more iodine 129 with a 15 million year half-life are created. And these ionize and radiate your thyroid glands 9 times more effectively than iodine 131. And so you can't eat anything out of the Pacific Ocean. You can't eat anything out of British Columbia now. You can't even go down on fish and touch something because you're talking about a contagion. This is what they're calling it. But it was a way to stop their friends and families and loved ones who have been privileged and who are used to doing this and grew up doing that and who don't understand that their family and their loved ones are actually murderers who hid this away. Like we paid the people in the government to tell us. We gave them the equipment, the authority, and the monetary, and the ability, and the job to go out and find it when it happened and tell us. And when it happened, they didn't tell us, they hid it away. We uncovered that in increments over the last 5 years. And that is exactly what happened. The media, 100% was in on it. They're not stupid, they're not naive, they're not gullible, they're mass murdering, they're freaks of nature, they're traitors to the human species. They're not like me or you. So you don't want to, like this is, I showed you the pictures, the coastline is naked, but they're saying, oh, it's throughout the whole coastline, so that's what they're telling everybody. That's their way of coming out and saying that it's radiated, but coming out and saying it's full of cancer cells, and we don't ever see nothing like it, it's jumping to everything. In other words, don't eat nothing out of the ocean is what they're telling their friends and their families and people in the know that are paying attention or that they show it to, and that's why they got it. We need something to show to our family. They still want to go eat freaking mussels in summertime. Well, you know, it's frightening the shit out of me. We know how much radiation coming in. We can't tell the Canadians won't have a pension. Don't care about all their loved ones dying. Refuse to do the moral and ethical thing. I lost audio. Which reminds me, let's come over. Make sure everything's looking good. So the sound was gone. So was the sound gone? Hang on, folks. I'm just checking the external computer comment section. I see people saying something about sound. Elaine was having problems. And just refresh your pages when that happens to you, folks. Effective environmental half-life at 137 at the Coral Islands. So all these studies show that radiation lasts forever and ever and ever. Foliage and soil uptake at 137 and 85 strontium. 85 strontium, it's almost 2 years half-life. And so that's a good tracer, right? Instead of 134 cesium, strontium 85 is a really good tracer too. So grapevines and their location, translocations to fruits and to other plants. Compartments is described. Grapevine plants growing in pots and kept in open fields were contaminated 134 and 85 strontium. They both got the same half-life, roughly, give or take a month. And ionic forms of sprinkling on the aerial part. And so the sprinkling was effective at the stage of ripening of the grapes, more effective, right? Interception determined by analyzing all the leaves picked from the trees, plants after the sprinkling was approximately 50% of the sprayed activity stuck onto the plants. And so when the plume came through, it never stopped coming through, but the original first 3 months was brutal plumes. It was a plume the width and the girth of the Pacific Ocean, the width and the girth of North Atlantic, or North Pacific, or North America, Canada and America, and Mexico and everywhere else. It was the width and girth of the Atlantic Ocean, the width and the girth. The width and the girth are the same thing. I always do that for some reason. So the span of the entire planet is circled in 40 days, but it was still coming out. It never stopped coming out. So it, you know, it's like lanes of traffic around the planet that every 40 days there's another lane of traffic of radioactive isotopes around the planet because it never stops coming out. And so therefore it's always falling down into the ocean. Therefore in the ocean, think of the ocean as a snowstorm in the ocean that sits there like a diver suspended, right? You know, where a diver puts buoyancy compensator and just sits there at that one depth. Think about a snowstorm that sits in the ocean and just pulses throughout the entire width and the length of the ocean. Yeah? And so everything that's swimming through there is getting pounded with radiation anyway. Everything there has absorbed that radiation anyway. Anything that's left is going to be full of that radiation after 5 years. That radiation has never stopped coming out of there. We don't think we're going to be able to stop it. We don't know where the cores are. We won't even try. Harvard, Yale, Berkeley, Stanford, MIT, Oxford, all these institutions went where? They went to Chernobyl. None of them went where? Fukushima. Because they only said, because they blew up the rods. So the rods are all over the site. So that's X-rays, neutron bursts, beta bursts, gamma showing. It'll melt your organs in less than an hour. It'll melt your organs quicker if you're close to it. It can kill you in 1 minute if you get too close to it. That's why they're running out of the homeless and the immigrants in Japan. That's all he sent in there. Who else would go in there that was in the know? Nobody. See? And while you'll see pictures of people in there, I can assure you these people are still not alive. These people are dead. These people died. These were the homeless. Oh, Dana, there's people in there. Yeah. They threw them away like paper towels. And we have that documentation. Remember, they're burning it in the incinerators right across Japan. The radiation, they're burning it. And yet the Pacific Ocean is going to be okay in 20 years. That's why I got arrested. It's because I called out these people, these exact people, so many times. And that I blew their cover. That's why they tried 2 times in 2014 to arrest me. They brought 2 charges against me, couldn't get me arrested. They had 2 for 2015. When I came off the ocean, they came and they picked me up. And then they demonized me in the media. And the media hasn't stopped since Fukushima or since I've been arrested 6 months ago or so, in November of 2015. So we know how the stuff is uptaked into the soil, into the strawberries, into the grapes. We got all kinds of studies showing. And then this is applicable to all the other plants, all the other vegetables, all the other foods, yeah? Your grass, your flower garden, translocation of 125, because there's so much come through, still coming through, so much landed, so much sucked up into. This stuff goes down and gets into the root system. You can't get it out. You can dig up the surface all you want. It's still coming back tomorrow morning. It comes up as pollen. It radiates the entire plant. See, think about a steel tube that's magnetized, and then you take a ball bearing that's not magnetized, and you roll that ball bearing slowly through the steel tube. When it comes out the other end, it's going to be a little bit magnetized. That's what radiation does to plants and to everything. It's like a car battery can magnetize screwdrivers all day. Thousands of screwdrivers every day. That car battery will still last as long as it normally lasts. You don't take away from that car battery. But you magnetized all these friggin' screwdrivers. Neat trick, right? Well, radiation does the exact same thing. And they know that. They know this. They understand that. But their job is now to come out and lie to you, even though everybody knows the difference that pays attention. And that their own friends and families and loved ones, they lie to them constantly. That's the problem with these people, is they're unbelievable, dangerous, vicious, violent thugs and lawyers. Apart from radiocesium, radiostrontium, few studies on the foliar transfers of radionuclides in plants. Consequently, specific translocation factors 129 iodine. See? Are still missing from the IAEA reference database. The IAEA is full of people that are on UNSCLEAR, on ERPA, on the Atomic Energy Boards. They're the same people on each of the boards. There's a very small section of them, less than 100 of them. And these are, we called it a number of them. There was Kathleen Higley, Professor Kathleen Higley from the United States. There was Professor Jerry Thomas, another female from UK. These are radiation experts. These are setting policies in your country, in your communities, in your hospitals, and for nuclear power plants. These are the experts. And when you go listen to them, bananas, potato chips, walking in the sunshine, getting on an airplane, they bring out every law in the book. And they're blatant about it. Oh, yeah, radiation, that's dangerous. I mean, these are, it's unimaginable that is happening. It's unimaginable that our government allowed this to, but that's how our government works. That's how our media works. They won't hire nothing but people like that. These are not people, by the way. These are subhuman species. These don't have an emotional trigger like me or you. At all. They don't have pleasure. They don't understand pleasure. They don't feel that. They have little pains of conscience, but they justify it by just smiling and forgetting about it and pretending it never happened. Foliage and root uptake of 134 cesium, 85 strontium, and 65 xenon in processing tomato plants. The plants contaminated at the second stage intercepted 38% less than those contaminated at the first stage, although leaf area increased by more than double. And so, like the study I showed you earlier, the leaf increase actually means something, see? Etc., etc. 134.85 in fruit plants following wet aerial disposition, you know, like raining out from the jet streams, because the jet streams are actually real. The knowledge and processing concerning the radiocontamination of fruit after a spike release can improve the understanding of exposure through ingestion of food and better assess the public dose. Yeah, good look on that one. You think they're actually going to admit to something? Name the example. Let me hear it. I want to hear it. Name the example of where they admit it. It's too dangerous to go there. Name it. And they've done all these studies to say that they're to prove that they're capable. Yeah. Well, you think about, yeah, that was the 85 strontium with a half-life of 64 days. Okay, I made a mistake. 64 days, not 2 years. What did I say 2 years for? Oh, its whole life was 2 years. Right. Almost 2 years. Accumulation, because it got 10 half-lives. Accumulation of radionuclides by plants is a monitoring system. And same way, why you should, you shouldn't be, like Woods Hole told you not to collect algae in your water samples, but give them $600 for the water sample. But algae was what they should have been taking, not water. Yeah? That's how they done it to you. Because the algae, we seen kelp with 40 million becquerels a kilogram off California. 40 million. Germany throws its food on a nuclear power plant, stores it there in a container at 5 becquerels. France does it at 17. 40 million becquerels. These people would run away from their job if you brought them that to package. The transport of radionuclides, plant leaves determined by the plant, blah, blah, blah. The foliage uptake, 99 strontium, 131 iodine, 137 cesium described for example. So it takes up everything, is what it's showing you. Experimentally determined translocations in potatoes of radionuclides. Yeah, because potato got roots. Fruit plants following, I think we just covered that one. Oh, yeah, the residual fraction in leaves was an average of 7% of the initial applied 137 and 8% of the strontium 85, which has a 60-day half-life. Well, it was 60% of 134 cesium and 28% of 85. Rinsing of the fruit before consumption caused a loss of 24%. But like the study I showed you earlier on the rat skin or the pig skin, you could only at best get 10%, but you were using some harsh stuff to get it down to 10%. You weren't doing that on the real skin, right? That's why you were using that. But vertical soil transfer by tree root system, 137. So this stuff doesn't go away is what I'm trying to show. This stuff is not going to disappear just because somebody from BBC, hi everybody. You're welcome, Jan. Yeah, we're almost up to the end of the show here. Another 6 minutes to go, folks. But are we too scared, right? So, BBC, are we too scared? Helen Briggs, she's up on she's up on Twitter. You'll find her. Go find that story. You'll find a link to her Twitter. And tweet this video out to her. And then tweet the video out to the people that wrote these stories, wrote these articles, like the Washington Post and National Geographic. That's something that everybody should do. And make sure you put at Fukushima, one word, nice and tight, because nothing shows up there from my streams, but people do put it out there. But somebody might break through if enough people do it. And tweet this video to the University of British Columbia. The mussels are missing from the coastline, like I showed you earlier in the video. CBC News tweeted out to them and said, by the way, you demonized Dana Durnford, who warned you about this. You vilified him and allowed the person who was lying to harm Dana, to attack Dana's reputation. See, I don't attack someone, an academic, lightheartedly, because they got a whole lot of education and money and effort and hopes and dreams, you would think, put into that education. And you can't smear somebody without the documentation. And anybody that I called out, I didn't smear anybody at all. I showed the documentation and showed that these were dangerous people, that these were scary people, that these were vicious thugs. And that you got to realize the amount of time and energy and effort I have put into this, endless, and what, you know, how far advanced we would be if I didn't have the burdens that I had, if I wasn't sitting here with nothing all the time. And that the money that I raised for my defense, I used it to get back up and running again. I bought this equipment. And this equipment has paid for itself, as far as I'm concerned, many times over since I started using it. And I would have bought a lot more equipment if I had the ability to. Trust me, I still do. But I'm not worried about that. I gave up on that hope in one way. I just don't like asking. You can donate it to nuclear proctologists and have PayPal. But I mean, I just hate having to do that. But I don't know how else am I supposed to survive? How else am I supposed to do this by myself without raising enough money to build up a real studio and a real operation to come out and challenge them all the time? And you know, how do I do that? I'm trying to finish the book. I'm trying to finish the documentary. And it's hard because I keep running into pictures of Zoe. And it's hard for me. But I'm trying. I don't stop. It's non-stop for me. Basic features is seasonal multi-year dynamites of the cesium-137. And so the studies that this stuff is not going away, that the stuff that permeates throughout the soil and the plant based and then the grasses and everything else, the endless amount, I'm just going to flash through these so there's a record of them, because I know I'll never get back to these because I have thousands and thousands and thousands. But these were all from Helen Briggs' source, from BBC's journalist that we called out. And that's all her sources. And I just debunked everything she might ever say in the future about radiation at the same time, or anything she's ever said in her history about radiation at the same time. And that's how I roll, because I got to be effective and efficient, and I have to make sure that everybody else is the same way. That's what this is all about in every sense of the word. So mollusks, which is mussels, which is what we're talking about earlier, right? And so we have studies that show how in 2009, how they recognized, and remember the accident was 2000, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. So 2009, see, mussels, right? Like a plot out of a summer horror flick all along the Canadian Pacific. All along the Pacific. Well, I've done that for 260 days. It's all gone. And so what they're saying to their friends and families and loved ones and people in the know, because you won't find this everywhere. It's not everywhere. But they're going to use that amongst themselves so their children won't eat it. And they're not going to put it out there so your children won't eat it. It's fucking heartbreaking. It's beyond betrayal. It's absolute murder what they're doing to you. That's murder. Not to get out and tell everybody to stop eating it. They're still serving it in the restaurants. But the government's children won't be eating it because they looked at that study, right? Their parents made sure they seen that. Discharge 137 cesium, 90 strontium by the Finnish River to the Baltic Sea, 86, 96. In 2001, those radionuclides were still there strong. Still going strong. So, mining, marine activity in the Arctic, a retrospective environmental studies in Greenland waters. 90 strontium, which are just tracers in the cesium-137 are just tracers. But the reactors don't run on, so that's the end of the show, but the reactors don't run on that. I'm just going to try to flash through the rest of them real quick here before we give it up. We still got 2 minutes left, let's boogie. Just so we get them up in print so you can go look these up if you feel like it, if it means... It's all these studies on all these different... I'm still dizzy from reading all this anyway. But countermeasures for animal products is where they fed the animal products to try to decontaminate. You can't decontaminate it. In their friggin' bones. It goes in their muscles, but you can get some of it out of them. And they should. The animals doesn't deserve to die like that. The influence of development of temperate fruit tree species and potential for the uptake of radionuclides, 2001. And the effects of partial flooding on 137-19 forests. And so all these studies in 99 technetium, and then you had Atlantic and Arctic waters and cellophile radionuclides. You have this whole friggin' history, 129 in the ocean, the origins and applications. Anthropogenic, which is man-made iodine, 129 in another study. And then you got Helen Briggs, and this is her studies. Doctor Who, The Science Hour, Big Break Diaries, BBC Radio presenting Helen. And so I didn't call Helen until I'd done my homework, okay? Can you live without processed food, yeah? The pain of producing a global climate change. And this is the kind of person she is, right? Europe's roadmap for space. I'm looking at too many screens. Johnny Sparkler does his job. Ebola, right? She covers some of these stories. Calls for more sharing of scientific data. Oh, I dare say, how about the Fukushima? Helen? Should they do more? So, how to be a stand-up. That's about the only thing. And balloons deflated but not beaten. But this one here, BBC News Online stand-up guinea pig Helen Briggs. She's a guinea pig. And everybody else is because of her now. Enrolls in the comedy workshop to learn just how hard it is to make people laugh. If comedy's the new rock and roll, she said, I'm a banana. And what's the biggest attack we get from the nuclear industry is like a banana. And she's like a banana. Okay, let's go over and say goodnight to everybody. Hugs for everybody. Let's bring you up. That's pretty good. Good stream. Hi, Pam. Shanigan. Good night, everybody. Miss Milky. Candace. CJ. Fukushima Exposed. Elmwood. Nathan. And everybody I don't get. And Candace called into the show last week. Lonnie will be on. Lonnie will have me back on Friday morning. I screwed up and slept in the last time. Burnt out up all night reading through shit. And I can't take a break because I have nothing else to do. I don't have anything else. Don't have the ability to go do something. I don't have the money. I have the will, but I don't have the ability. And that's probably a good thing. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to do what I'm doing. I'm privileged to do what I've done. Hi, Yekik. Yitik. I'm your author, Jace. And then anybody I didn't get, Nep Killer. My apologies. And the comments will all be gone after the stream. But we are able to stream in 1080. And so that's pretty cool. So you get a good video out of it. It's a little easier on me. Not that I care, I'll do the work. Hi, Josh. Night all. Yeah, indeed. And everybody that I didn't get. Hugs for everybody. Brian. Hi, Brian. How's it going, bud? And what do you say? I do like the live streams. I do think they are important. I do think they bring something really unique. And where else are you going to get that energy? Where else? And remember that Geiger counter is live. They throw the food away in Germany at 5 becquerels, 5 counts per minute. And then France at 17 counts per minute. So everything in my house is contaminated. And I know Dots is saying that I was saying that there's hundreds of counts per minute. Dana's lying. Well, I'm not lying. It's right up there on the Geiger counter. When it shows up, it's not me. It's on the Geiger counter. I'm just saying what was on the Geiger counter when I seen it. I'm not the bad guy. That guy is, though. That's Connecting Dots. Louis L'Amour. He's a murderer. He killed Jeff Palco. And his day is coming. He will be held accountable. That is our obligation. We are obligated to do it. Because if we don't, then everybody else could be a victim too. And so at some point, I'm going to have to deal with that. But I need to be in a position that I can deal with that and any blowback from that. And so we're getting there. I'm trying. And that's all I can do. And I will continue to do. So you know that about me. I ain't going anywhere. The Contagious.org has all the documentation of the expeditions. They show the extinction event. It's not just, Canada. It's the whole Pacific Rim nations. Hugs for everybody. Talk to everybody next chance we get. It won't be long. I am coming up with more energy. I finally got some rest. And we got a lot accomplished in the last couple of weeks. So pretty soon we'll try to get back to norm.